Alright, we've got a washing machine here and the customer is complaining that the water is not filling up into the drum. So first we're going to connect the water connection and drain and test the unit ourselves. The issue could be related to two things. Could be either related to the water intake valve in the back of the unit or could be related to the door lock in the front. Before we jump into any conclusion, we're going to test it ourselves. Let's go ahead and connect the water and drain connections. Let's go ahead and connect the water supply hose to the unit. Here I'm using a test hose so it can be connected using finger force. If you're using regular hose, you'll have to use wrench. Now let's go ahead and connect the drain of the unit. Perfect. And the power of the unit. So we put the unit on a 2-hour cycle. It's been running for 23 minutes and it seems like there's no water in the drum. So there's definitely an issue with the unit. Let's go ahead and test the door if it's locked. If the door is locked, the door lock is in order and there's no problem with it. And the door is locked, so there's definitely a problem with the water intake valve. And those are the tools we'll need for today's repair. A basic drill with different drill bit sizes, starting from square finishing with star size, flat screwdriver to access tight spaces where you have to jam it in, a set of pliers, and my favorite, an adjustable set of pliers where you can adjust it to any size nut, a set of cloths to wipe off any excessive water and protect your floors from water damages, a small wrench to access the tight spots, a construction knife, and a plumbing tape. You can use the plumbing tape where there is a connection metal on metal to ensure there is no leaks at the connection. And of course, the multimeter to test all the components on our way. Let's go ahead and remove the top cover. Here we have Phillips screws, so let's go ahead and unscrew them. Now just place both of your hands on top of the cover and push it away from you to remove the cover. Let's go ahead and grab the multimeter. And let's test those valves. First, let's disconnect each valve from its harness terminals. Grab your multimeter and set it to 200k ohm resistance. And now all we have to do is measure each valve for its own ohm resistance. Now regular readings for those set of valves are usually around 3.5. So the first valve passes the test. And the second valve passes the test as well. Don't worry, it doesn't necessarily mean the valves are fully functional and opening fully. Just because it passed the test, it doesn't mean they're fully functional. Instead, we're gonna grab our power test wire and test the valves. But it's using a custom harness block, we won't be able to connect with our regular connection. So instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna reuse this wire as our power test tool and connect it to the valve. Don't try to open this harness block, it's made out of plastic and will break. Now just make sure you cut enough wires so you can work with it. Perfect, now let's go ahead and clean those two wires from the rubber insulation. Just grab the construction knife and clean the wires. Perfect, now they're clean, let's go and put the male connectors on each of the line. Now use a pair of pliers to secure connectors in place. Great, now let's go ahead and connect it to our power test tool wire. Perfect, now the connector sits tight and snug and we can go ahead and test the valves. Now just go ahead and connect the connector to the valve number 1 and plug it into your power outlet. Now just listen for the water to come into the drum and watch visually if your drum fills up. Now let's go ahead and connect it to the valve number 2 and test it if it opens or not. Connect it into the second valve. and plug it in into the power outlet once again. I can't hear any sound, and it's clear that the water is not filling up. So the valve number 2 has failed. Now we'll have to replace the whole thing. Before we do next steps, let's make sure we shut off the water supply. Like so. Perfect. Now it's time to use your set of claws to catch all the extra water while you're disconnecting the water supply hose. Now place the cloth right underneath the hose, and while disconnecting, make sure you catch all the water escaping within the connection. Now I like to work in a clean environment, so let's go ahead and clean this up. Now let's go ahead and remove the water inlet valve by removing those 2 screws. Be careful on pulling the soap assembly. Those plastic brackets are made out of plastic and might break. Now push down the water valve assembly and remove it like so. What kills those valves is the calcium buildup inside, so the way it works is that the water enters from the main channel and there is a metal pin inside that is blocking the water channel by default. So when the power passes through the main terminals here, the magnetic force pulls the metal pin inside and opens the water channel and lets the water pass through. So out was the old valve and in was the new one. Great, now we can go ahead and install it. I'll go ahead and put the 2 screws back in. Perfect, it sits tight and snug. So all we have to do now is connect the connectors back in. Now all we have to do is work with the remaining 2 wires and connect the old harness block back in. Now clean off the rubber insulation from both wires, and I'm gonna connect the female connectors because our harness terminal block is using male connectors. Perfect, let's connect it back together. And connect the wire into the remaining valve. Perfect. Now let's keep our wire work clean and put everything back together the way it was. Now put the top cover back on and screw in the remaining screws. Perfect. Now let's test it once again. Now the unit is fully functional and passed all other tests. If you have any other problems with your washing machine, such as washer fills slowly, leaking water, won't start, won't spin or agitate, or overflowing, give us a call at 1-866-244-6051.